Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Yeah. Ho, 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 ho. Hip hop, hooray. Oh.
It's, yeah. What are we doing? What's happening here? Why did any of that happen?
I have no excuses this time because we already recorded one. And now I'm like, well, I should be ready.
You should be into it now, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched once.
Woots!
Just once.
Woots.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this more like twice. Am I right? No? It doesn't work. This is working.
Da, 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 da.
Who'd you write this song for?
She's gone.
She's dead?
No, she's not dead. She's gone.
My father used to play in the orchestra back at home.
You don't want to go for a walk or something, no?
Take this in Campbell and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You made it.
Do you want to stay?
I have to go now.
Stay the night.
Listen, thank you to Mickey for Therapy 2023. Mickey for Therapy 2023 is the one who has asked us to watch 2007's Once, an Irish musical. Mickey for Therapy had us watch The Commitments last time. It feels like there's a pattern for
Right, it feels like Mickey has a mission.
Yes.
There's a design
And
here. There's a plan, a plot.
To get us to love Irish musicals, I guess that's it. But thank you, Mickey, for Therapy, for having us watch Once, a movie I had already seen. Tom, I know you didn't, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. This was 2007. This was a darling that year. It won Best Song at the Academy Awards. I remember that very clearly. I also remember the actor and actress who are in this, who are actors and actresses, not professionally. They wrote the song, so they were on stage accepting the award. And I remember that they fucking had him speak, and then they played her off before she could speak.
Oh, sweet.
And Jon Stewart, the host, after the ad break, came on and he was like, "No, she's doing her speech," and basically had her come back up. And I really appreciated that because,
oh wow,
like. It's just like, no, yeah, they both wrote the song. Fuck you, Academy Awards. Play the woman off after he gave his speech. No. Yeah,
it's
let
some
them
trash.
fucking both speak. Yeah, and clearly Jon Stewart went backstage and was like, "This is not happening." So I appreciate. Thank you, Jon Stewart. That's the only good thing you've ever done.
True.
Yeah, not looking it up.
That and Big Daddy.
Yes, of course. God, yeah, Big Daddy.
He really gave us a gift with Big Daddy.
He really did. Tom, how did you like 2007's Once?
Dave, I loved this movie.
Oh, high five!
I fucking loved this movie.
Okay, so I was prepared. My statement, no matter what your answer, this is the sappiest movie that fucks me up. I love this movie, Tom. This movie fucks me.
It does. It does. I wouldn't call it overly sappy. It is a little bit.
No,
but
I guess, yeah.
But I give it a lot of leeway because of what it's about. Because it's about the way that music unites people and binds people and bonds people together, and that it sort of it doesn't last. It's very finite by its nature. It's only the length of a song or the length of a collaboration or the length of a performance, but it brings people together for this beautiful expression of everything it means to be a person.
Just once.
And just once. And then everybody goes their separate ways. And it's fucking beautiful, Dave. It's a beautiful goddamn movie.
I cry watching this movie. It's really
wept watching this movie.
Yeah, this movie fucks me up. Would you believe that the title "Once" isn't referring to what you just said, according to the director?
Sure, yeah. That's how art works. I'm very curious to know what their intent was.
So, according to my investigations, first of all, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure the director also knows that's what the title means, right? Like, you don't call it Once and not also, because it's all about street musicians,
right? Exactly, specifically people who have been cast out.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like wanderers or people with feel like they have no home, and then finding this family within music just because of the way that it brings people together. So, like, no matter where you go, he's playing a guitar on the street, and that's how she finds him. And he finds the rest of the band for the recording just because they're playing on a street, and they just find them.
Yeah. What the director said was Once also refers to the phrase, "I'll focus on my music, ... once I get this other stuff done." Meaning people who, and you can see it in this, the idea of the people have to answer to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have this, she has a kid. Like it's like they have shit they have to do. And it's about that idea of, like, in order to pursue your dream, you have to be selfish, right? You have to, it's I would argue, remember La La Land? This fucking kicks La La Land's ass. It's essentially the same premise.
Oh, yeah.
Of two people like who are having to choose between each other and art and having to play with that idea. But La La Land was made by someone who doesn't understand the idea of, like, a street musician, right? It's like in La La Land, they're both, like, the best at what they do. And it was like it didn't feel like I love the filmmaking of La La Land, but I always thought the message and the story was, like, bad. Mm-hmm. I always thought it was just, like, flawed. Mm-hmm. This feels like that, but like the better version.
Well, it's not about. It's about their collaboration. It's not about. They're not about. I see how they're. I definitely recognize how they're similar, but they're not about the same thing. They're not, like, addressing the same thing. This is more about how people come together, and it's less about, like, being selfish to pursue your dream than realizing that this was not meant to last. Like, it's not just that he decides to go to London to chase his dreams. Her husband comes back and wants to help her raise the kid, and she's like, I do not want my daughter to grow up without a father. And then she's helping take care of her mother as well. Like, she has a number of other responsibilities, and they came together for this brief moment to create this beautiful recording, and that has to be it. That's all it could be.
Yeah, and it's tragic. That's the thing.
It is tragic, but it's more bittersweet.
Yes, because it's not like at the end you're like, oh, their lives are bad. They have fine lives at the end.
They leave each other much better than where they were when they met.
Yes, but it's the Lost in Translation of it all, right?
Yeah.
But unlike Lost in Translation, I'm like, no, don't.
It ends with rather than him. I love this so much. Like, it ends with he doesn't get that last goodbye. Like, she doesn't come by to see him. He throws it out there. He's like, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to London. Do you want to come by later tonight for, like, one last hangout? And then she sort of throws the idea that there's a possibility they might have sex. And he's like, well, yeah, sure. I'd be down with that as well. Why don't you come over? And she never shows. And then he goes over the next morning to try to say goodbye, and she's not there. It's just her mom there with the little girl. So he never gets that final goodbye. But rather than doing some, like, leaving some message or like running back, getting up from the plane from the airport and running back to her house, he buys her that piano and has it delivered to her house. So, like, he gives her, it's in a very simplistic and cheesy way, he gives her music, right? Like he leaves
Right.
her with the ability to do what she just helped him do. Like she helped him put him on his way to achieving his dream, and now he's doing the same for her.
Right, and there's this idea that she's sort of been shelved, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like they have an
She's-
acceptance speech,
Yeah.
and she's played off
Yeah.
instead of getting her speech.
Well, like,
it-
she's the one whose life is more on hold, right? He's the one that has the freedom. She doesn't
Exactly.
have the freedom. So it's like he leaves her with this piano. Like we learned that her father was a concert musician. But she's had to sort of put music up because she got pregnant very young, and now she has to try to make ends meet. You know, her and her mother and her daughter live together in this tiny apartment. So she just has all these. She can't get to her once, I guess, as the director for in the same way that he can. But he leaves her with a piano, so so she can start. Like now I have a piano in the house. I can not only can I get started on my dream, but it's also about the idea of like music bringing together. So it's like paying it forward. So it's like now you can share music with the people around you.
Right.
Because she didn't have a way to do that before.
Yeah, and it is a very great ending, and it's basically like it's a romantic comedy if the romantic comedy had a more realistic ending, right?
Right,
That's
where they
still
don't
sweet.
Well, they don't even kiss, I don't think.
No, they don't do the big. It's just awkward conversations for the most part. It starts basically with him as this musician on the street, they do this great shot where they spend a little time with him as a musician on the street. He's clearly like struggling. A guy, this like dirtbag is like his only like person listening, and then he just steals his money, which I thought was genuinely good humor. Because when the guy first is like, he's like taking a piss in the alleyway. He comes out and he's just like, "Yeah, man, you're doing great." And he's like, "Come on, man,
It's like, don't fucking steal my money. Get away from my bags.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not going to steal your
trying to
money.
sing. He's trying to sing at the same time, and he keeps being like, "Dude, come on!"
Don't take our
And then
money.
he puts a little money in, and then he grabs the money, and he chases after him silently. And I think that's the funny part, is that it's just this silent chase that, like a dog when you know shit's really going down. And then he like hands a guy his guitar. And he's like, "Hold this," and they run into a store, and then he runs out the other side of the store, and that got me. And then basically they give up, and the guy's like, "All right, fucking fine." And so it's just clear like it's not going great. And then they.
And also, there's a subtle thing there that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? This one of the first things that she says to him when they meet, and these characters don't have names, by the way.
Yeah, they don't.
They're credited as guy and girl.
He says, "Is herself home?" at one point, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like they avoid her name or any
and his name. They name other characters. It's just not these two.
No.
But so the first conversation they have is she comes up to him while he's playing on the street at night, and she's like, "Hey, I like that song. That's an original song, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's something I've been working on." She's like, "Well, you should play that during the day when there's more people around to hear it." And he says, "Well, I won't make as much money. People during the day, there's more people outside, yeah, but they want to hear songs they know, and I won't make as much money." And then she's like, "Are you doing this to make money?"
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
he's like rude to her because she doesn't give him much money, and she's like, "Yeah, is this for money? Do you need me to give you money for this?"
Yeah, and then that flashes back to that scene where he hands a stranger his guitar. He says, "Hold this," to the stranger so he can chase this dude down for about $9.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he ends up giving the guy half of it anyway.
Yeah, so it's like it's very clear he's in this weird. Like he knows
he wants to play. Like, I've been in this. This is another reason why this movie hit me so hard. Is I was in a band, struggling musician with dreams throughout my entire 20s. So I have been this dude where it's just like you don't even you want to play, but it's like you're not doing it for the right reasons, or like he's just doing it in a way where he's just sort of spinning his wheels and staying in place. Like he's not taking the risk that he should take.
Yeah. The part where she shows up, by the way, I want to talk about the filmmaking at some point, but I have to point out it's a wide shot of him on the street. The camera slowly pushes in. It's a handheld shot. It pushes in on him finishing the song. He's alone on the street, like completely alone. So there's this idea that he's on the street playing for nobody. Like no one's listening to him. You don't even see people crossing in the shot. So he is just singing into the void.
Yeah.
And it zooms in on him and then it pulls out slightly and there she is.
Yep.
So it's this idea of he's alone in this void and then now he's not. And it's like for a movie that's made on a nearly zero budget, the most expensive shot, can you guess what it was in this movie?
It would either be that shot or it would be, I can't remember if there are any crane shots in this.
There's a crane shot at the end.
That's it.
And that's the most expensive shot.
That's it.
Yep. That's it. And this was mostly paid by the Irish Film Board. It's very low budget. Apparently, Cillian Murphy was in talks for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's just like he liked the script, but ultimately it was, and I guess he was a musician.
Oh, because it's like it's clearly
actor.
written for musicians. Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's probably good that he wasn't in it because this worked out really well. It was also controversial, the song, because I guess the song wasn't necessarily written for the movie, and it's like best song has to be written for a movie. But there's like a little bit of eligibility talks. But I'm glad, and obviously the best song is the credit song and the song that they work together.
The first song they play together in the music shop. Yeah, and it's also he sort of conjures her out of the void, right? Because it's the first time this is the scene where he's actually playing from his heart and doing what means something to him because he's actually playing the song that he wrote. Whereas earlier he's just being a jukebox to make money. This is where he's actually expressing himself, and that's when she appears.
Yes, and so that's actually what I'm glad you brought that up because the thing about the filmmaking, so no budget. You can tell, shot on long lenses. Apparently when that guy did the scene where he steals the money, one of the takes, a passersby tried to stop him. And they're all like, oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
We're filming a movie. Because it's shot on long lenses. When they're in that diner later, it's like clear that they're stealing the shots. Like they steal most shots in this.
Yeah.
That said, this is a musical. And what I mean by that is that it is a musical in the sense that when the music happens, it functions the way a musical normally would be. So he's singing the song when he meets the girl, and that's a musical moment. Like that's what would happen in any musical, right? They both sing their feelings to each other in various ways. Like the music is used, like think of, I don't know, Aladdin. He has a song. She has a song. They have a song together. It represents their love. Like, and then they sing to, you sing to each other at like the third act to say like, this is how I'm feeling. That all happens in this movie.
Yes.
And it happens diegetically. Like it happens completely fucking, they're just playing music, but it's the entire format from beginning and end is a musical. And that I thought was really fucking impressive. That they were able to do it.
It's very, very subtle, too.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but it's all there. And they find these ways. Like, they know when to stay on a song, and they know when to have, like he does a song, and it just shows him doing his life, right? Working. And so it's like that. You'd see that in a musical, right? Where it's like someone singing a song, but we're seeing another scene happen. Later, she's writing lyrics for his music, has to go get batteries, and is walking down the street from getting batteries, singing the song,
the lyrics
listening
she
to the
wrote.
Walkman.
Yeah.
And it's her song. It's a song about how it's about looking for satisfaction is the song, I believe. The lyrics are around that. And then later her song that she plays is also about how she can't, to satisfy her ex, she needs to give up her life. So like that's the theme of her, is like the idea of satisfaction in the sense of finding, her music, being able to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And so like the songs that they're writing is also very much in relation to what's going on in the movies, right? Like it's goddamn. It's really good. It's a really good musical for that reason. Like their song together starts with what? I don't know you, but I want you. Like it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's about their moment together. So fucking good. So yeah, they meet each other. And she at first they have this conversation and he's like, I fixed vacuum cleaner. And she's like, oh shit, I have a broken vacuum cleaner. And she actually does.
Yeah.
And they do this. That's when they do the montage where he like calls his ex. He's working at the shop. You see this idea that like they start going out to do the vacuum thing, and she's like quirky about it. Where he's like, I don't really have my tools, and she's like, well, I'll just bring my vacuum, and they essentially go on a date where she has her vacuum the whole time. And they're talking about their lives and goals, and that's when she like lets it slip, like, oh yeah, I play piano.
Yeah, and her dad was like a concert violinist.
Yeah. And so there becomes this interest where it's like it's not romantic right away. Like she at first is like she's the one, like it's clear that he makes a move on her, right? He says something and she's like, all right, bye. After this.
Yes, yeah.
and so she's fascinated with him because she hears him on the street and she just likes him musically. And then
I think she likes him too. It's just he was moving too fast.
Yes. And then he likes her at first, just he hasn't heard her play, and then there's this scene where she plays piano and he like focuses on the piano and not her, and you realize like, oh, now he realizes like, oh shit, she's good, isn't she?
Yeah.
So that the music store run by Abe Lincoln. Did you notice that guy? That
yeah, the real Abe Lincoln looking dude. And there's a couple of moments in the movie where that happens, where like somebody's kind of like whatever. Like I'm thinking about the sound engineer.
The record. Yeah, the sound engineer is great arc. Yeah. Where by the end it's fucking 6 a.m.
Yeah, and
he's just like
he's just part of the group now, and that's like I have had that experience where you sit down, you spend a couple of super long nights recording, and then like the engineer gets it. It's that montage where they play that song that has a little electronic beat to it.
Yeah.
And it's just a montage of the recording process. That is like 100% what that experience is like when it's going good.
Yeah.
And everybody's vibing. But yeah, like
I sat in on a recording once, and yeah, it's a blast. And like they do a great thing where like they're getting it at a discount. She's also, what we learn is he really needs her because she's also his business manager essentially. Like she's the one who people are like, is he any good? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, he's great. Like she's the one who's like,
they have the tools to a degree. It's like they each have something that the other is lacking, right?
Yes.
He's got like, I guess the ability or the means to play, and she has like, she knows what he needs. She has like the motivation, like knows what he needs to do, where he's just kind of standing still.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like going back to the music shop, we get this scene where he's like, yeah, let's try this song together. And this part makes me tear up because it's watching two people. Obviously, it's not in the moment real. It's, a movie. But it's two people developing a song together that turns out to be a beautiful fucking song.
It really is, yeah. The music in
song.
This is really good.
This deserved best song, 100%. That was the year of No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, where it was one of those Oscar years where I'm just like, I agree with every decision being made.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Every decision is going to be correct.
Yeah. It's a great song, and there he kind of brings her through it, and then they play this song, and you're like, fuck, man. And Abe Lincoln looks up like, fuck, man, that's a good song. He explains his ex-girlfriend on the bus.
Via song.
Yeah, which is a deal breaker to me personally. Yeah. If I was on a date,
I like how they incorporate it, where it's like because he really doesn't want to talk about her at first. Like she has to ask him a few times, and then the only way he's willing to do it in this scene is if he kind of plays little jokey songs about explaining what happened in his relationship.
Yeah, and it's a musical. He fixes the vacuum finally, and she gets approval of the dad by saying nothing's for free. You can tell she's like, how much do I owe? And he's like, oh, it's free. And she goes, nothing's for free. And the dad's like dadness peaks.
Yeah, where he's just like, all right, well, how about this much money?
Yeah, my dad sense is tingling.
Yeah, and then he looks at his dad like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when he's like, you want to stay the night? And she says, fuck this.
Yep.
Thanks, bye.
She does. That's when he fucks it up.
Yep, and so he approaches her the next day, and it's basically him again. There's this two things happening. They're amazing musical partners, and there's this idea of romance that could fuck it up. And she clearly is like taking her time, and later she's the one who starts pushing. But like it. So we've established his life, his family, and he's basically like, okay, I'm sorry I fucked up. Now it's you, and we focus on her.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then we go
family
into her apartment with her mom, and then I love the three or four guys that just come in to watch television because it's the only TV in the house. That is, I liked that, but it is very Garden State. Like it's very, it's very like
the
mid-aughts,
vacuum too.
Very mid-aughts twee.
Yeah, the vacuum's twee too when you think about it, but they managed to do it.
Not as much. Like the vacuum, I got more of the sense of it's clearly a family business. His dad's clearly had that shop for decades, so I think it's more about being entrenched.
I mean, her dragging around the vacuum during the date.
Yeah. That
they're setting up quirky first date, and I think this movie works. Because I mean, we already talked about it. They don't get together at the end, and I feel like that's one of the saving things where it's like they're setting up the twee because they sort of know, like, they're trying to make it cute. They're trying to be like, look at this, like, great little cute date they're on. But like him asking her to stay, it's like, it's kind of part of it is like, you don't even fucking know me. Like, you know, we know, okay, you got your turn to tell me your life. You haven't asked me shit too. Mm-hmm. And so like, we get that where it's like, okay, here is her life.
Yeah.
And her life, she's, like I don't know if she is Czech. She's
Czech.
Her husband. Okay, her husband is. Yeah, she speaks language. He starts asking things like, "How do you say that in Czech?" Like, and he starts actually engaging in her life and asking her questions because he done fucked up. And then we continue this idea that like they're really good partnership. You know, this is where she like on the Walkman sings, but she clearly has
There has to be an element to, like, I understand why they're making it cute because there has to be that element of tragedy in order for the story to work, right? It has to feel like you know, the whole point of like the collaboration being this beautiful but brief moment in time. So we have to feel the brevity.
Right, and you can argue his needs.
We have to feel the loss. We have to feel the loss of it. Is what I'm saying. Is what I meant.
Yeah, and at the end, there's this feeling of like, you know, he should stay. Like that's what a romantic comedy would do. He has less reason to leave, right? She has to stay. Is what we're showing. She has to stay. They establish she has a kid. She has all these things that it's like she can't leave. We get his song about his ex with the little cracks, the escalated song, and they show like home movies.
Yeah, and
it's showing like that he still misses this ex. The ex, like the ex is basically the other in this, where it's like she doesn't get a fair shake, where it's like we don't know. We really don't know with her if she's worth going to London, right? And he's going to London for her and for his dream.
His music career, yeah, his dream. Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're getting this moment where it's like he's going to London, so it's not like she's going to like beg him. So that's when she starts thinking about like I should maybe talk to my ex, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is at the same time they're deciding to record something together. We get a delightful scene where he like goes to the thrift shop. And he's like, "You like it?" to the owner, and he goes, "You're gorgeous." Like a lot of good grumpy old dudes.
There's a lot of grumpuses. I love the bank president, like the loan guy,
loan manager.
Yeah, they go into they play him a little bit of his like home demos to ask for a loan to go pay for recording time, and after they play it to him, it seems like it's not landing. And so she takes the tape out kind of nervously and hands it to him. It's like, "Oh, you can take it home, listen to it, play it for your boss. I promise you, this is going to be a good investment. This is as long as we get a high quality recording, this is a hit." And he just kind of picks up he's, "Let me see the guitar. Let me show you guys something." And he starts fucking rocking out on his own little folk ditty.
It's so good. Yeah, hard cut to him with a guitar, and they're both sitting there
he's
like
doing the one leg. He's got one leg up. Yeah, it's an incredible scene.
Yeah, cut to him approving their loan immediately. Yeah. It's a good way to throw away, like, how did they get this money? Because they established they don't have much money.
And it's on theme again. It's the music idea. It's the idea that music connects people. Like, it brings people together. And it's one of the universal languages, you know?
Yeah. We get a little meandering here a little bit. Which is like, she again, his business manager, they go have dinner. It's not, the dinner scene feels like meandering. Everything else isn't. That was shot at the director's house. That's his friends and family, like his mom's in that scene. So it's just it's an hour and 20 minutes, which honestly I appreciate that about this film. And then he picks her up and they go out. That's when she reveals she's married, and they get this like romantic walk basically where she tells her story. And she talks about her husband. And that's when he asks, "Do you love him?" And she replies in Czech, and he says, "What does that mean?" And she goes on, "I looked it up. It means no, I love you," she's saying to him. So she is into him right there.
Mm-hmm. You can tell. You can't infer exactly what she said. But you can tell that she's like into him in the scene and in the chemistry and stuff. And it's a romance. They're into each other. We know it.
Yeah,
it's all cute
and again,
shit.
It's a tragic romance where they keep missing each other. Like one of them will be really into the other when the other one is thinking about a new life, because they basically keep having these other commitments, and they're playing this like game of chicken, really, where it's like, are we gonna give up those other things for each other in our music, or are we not?
Right.
You know?
Which possibility are we going to pursue?
Yeah, and then we get into the third act, or right before the third act, where they record it. And like we said, it's this great idea of like, this guy isn't even getting paid enough because they haggled him down. He's there. He's not going to give them much of their time. And then he thinks they're a joke. And then both him and the band, because they get these street musicians who are like...
Who want to play, I think Thin Lizzy is all they want to play. What they tell
it's
him.
Very funny. And they're like, I guess, it's this is not really our thing. And he like, when he's explaining stuff to them, they don't get it. And he's like, "You do a lot of recording?" And they're like, "No." And so that's what you're saying. Like, these are people who they sing into the void, and it's one time, and it's never recorded. And this is the first time they're actually like taking something that they do and immortalizing it. Like, it's like, oh yeah, this is actually like, we're actually recording this. And basically, not only does the engineer, but the band who didn't care start caring. And by the end, they're all like, they have this scene where they're like, "It's 4 a.m. I mean, is it good enough?" And they're like, and the engineer is like, "Listen, guys, I'll keep going."
Yeah, if you want,
and
you
they
want,
all
you
make
guys,
it just.
You guys want to call it a night? Or you want to go? You get to go for another.
Yeah, and they're like, "Let's keep going." And they all want to keep going, and that's kind of the defining moment. That, and when he's like, "Let's do the car test."
The car test.
He's not getting paid to do the car test.
No, normally they just have you do the car test on the drive home. It's
yeah. And he's like, "Get in my car. We're going to listen to it on the speakers, shitty speakers." And then they like go to the beach, and it's clear that they've just built a relationship.
Yeah. All around this collaboration, just this incredibly brief, we're going to come together, we're going to make this thing, and that's going to be it.
And I imagine for a recording engineer, I imagine this happens a lot where you sit down with a group and then you realize I could be here for history right now. Like, this might be a classic.
I don't know. I don't
I'm
think it
here
happens
for.
a lot. But
no, it certainly doesn't happen a lot. And of course, when a band is big enough, it's like they know they're making history. Like the Beatles, when they're recording, like, their last album. Yeah. They're like, it's not like, oh, this could be history. It's like, no, we know.
It is by default. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know, there's also, they do, again, it's musical rules, right? Like, the first song played, it's like, we're just going to listen to this song. They're just going to play the song. And then there's songs where they like, well, you can't just, like, sit here. Things have to happen. And so into the third act, that's where she finds this piano in the recording studio, I believe, and sings this, like, sad song that she can't even finish. And that's her song, pouring her heart out to him, Like, this is, we're hitting the third act. This is all the cards on the table. Again, everything is conveyed in song.
And he says...
I forget what
does
he
say.
says.
He says, "Did you write that for your husband?"
Right, yes. She says, yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe she wrote it for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's how it keeps going. Like, that's the tragedy. She sings
but maybe
this
she
song.
didn't. It could honestly be either.
Right. And he says to her, "Come to London with me," and she replies, "Can I bring my mother?" And that's like the perfect answer because it's like, it's basically no. Like, no, I have so much here. Stay here, you dipshit. Like that's probably where she's coming from.
Yeah, the mail works.
This,
fucking send your demo to London. Take the train to London.
Right. But he's just not over this ex too. So and so that's when she's, and again, it's not his fault because she was saying to him, I have a husband. I don't know. Maybe I should make that work. So like what they both keep thinking is they're not into it. Yeah. Like that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Is that it's neither of them fault because they keep thinking like, well, they got their plans. Who am I to like, I could ruin this by being like, no, I love you. Let's be together. And they never have that moment where either of them
and also
feel like the other is going to reciprocate.
And also, not just, because it's like he steps on a pretty major landmine their first day together where he's like, do you want to stay? And she's like, no.
Right. So I've had situations like this. I mean, Hana famously had to fucking like spell it out.
Yeah, I was
like guys can be thick.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying in terms of like
thick.
he at this point he's yeah.
Yeah, no, but in his case he's like, no, what I mean is that like that's always the thing where it's like I can't fucking tell. And he shot his shot, it didn't work. So in his mind he's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like no, it was the wrong timing. That's all. And then again, there's this idea that they both have perfectly good other things that they have to do.
Yeah.
In their minds. So that like he's like, she wants her husband to come and raise this kid with her. Of course she does. Like I'm not gonna fuck that up.
And
I'm not gonna like.
She's like, he's got this ex that they have all this history together, and he's got his thing in London he wants to go try to do, so he doesn't want to stay here.
A lot of movies do this, like the movie What If that we talked about with Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes.
A lot of romantic comedies do this, but there's this spectrum, right? Where like I think we brought up Adam Sandler in that one, where you watch The Wedding Singer and you're like, they made him like a monster. The other guy, he's like just walking around Hitlering.
They sure
world.
did, Glenn and Julia.
yeah, exactly. And so it's like a lot of these movies don't have the guts to sort of to make it complicated.
Right.
Where you're like, of course they have to be with each other.
I think I probably mentioned it. Excuse me, when we talked about. What If? I'm sorry, I couldn't remember. Yeah. Sleepless in Seattle. Where like Meg Ryan has to choose between Tom Hanks and Bill Pullman. And Bill Pullman's like kind of a magoo, but he's like a perfectly nice guy. He's not a monster or anything.
Right. This movie does what I think my favorite version, which is they simply put them under a question mark. We don't know
anything about them. We only know what each of them is willing to tell the other about their exes. That's all we know about them.
Right. So in our heads, we can be like, fuck them. They suck. But it's like, do they? We don't know. We have a few, like, he has a conversation with her briefly, and she seems nice enough, But it's like, no, we're rooting for them. But it's just like, we just don't know. Mm-hmm. And so they finish the album. They make this beautiful fucking music together.
And I think that's also, that's also part of the theme, right? Because we don't know anything about the rest of the band, right? So they're all just kind of... Yeah. It's a unique situation between him and her because they have this possibility of romance that's blossoming alongside their collaboration. But like part of the nature of this, this brief moment in time idea is that it exists kind of free of context, right? Like you don't normally when we sit down and listen to a song, we don't know jack shit about any of the personnel on, unless it's like Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, where we know like every bit of tea that was
too much.
We know all of the rumors around Rumors, but like most of the time, you don't know anything about like the bass player or like, like it's a total mystery. It's just, and none of that's, they don't put that stuff in the liner notes. They're like, no. It's the music. The music is what we came together to do. So it's, I think I both appreciate that just from a directing decision in terms of making like a romantic drama like this, where it's like, well, no, it's just about these characters and their perspective and what they're sharing with each other. But it also relates to that larger theme about collaboration, specifically in music, and like how it's just kind of like, well, no, it's work forward. And then like the stories around the different people are kind of like, they're not what gets immortalized when you record it.
Right. Yeah, listening to music is listening to one moment in time that's
Exactly.
been immortalized.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't know what's around it, but you do know this. This is the thing.
This is what they came together to express, was this 3 or 4
maybe they
minute
hated
song.
each other.
In a lot of cases, they did.
Yeah. And so they finish this album, and basically that's when he's like, just come back. And she says they'll be hanky-panky. And she's basically taking her shot. Like, in a weird way, she's like, if I come back, they'll just be hanky-panky, and what's the point? And that's when he should say, like, the point is I'll stay. But, of course, it just doesn't work. They don't have the right conversation in that moment. He kind of fucks it up. She kind of fucks it up. They're both being too coy. You know, no one lays their cards fully on the table and says, like, listen, I like you. I like this. We should we should pursue this. He goes home, shows it to his dad. His dad is like so fucking supportive. He's just such a Irish fucking, just like, I love you, son. I'll be fine. You go to London.
Yeah,
you go get famous.
He plays it for his dad. Like, he stops the tape, and his dad is like, that's the greatest fucking song ever written. Like, his dad is
exactly.
like, this song fucking rules. Go to London, sell this thing.
Yep. And then they show he doesn't sleep, even though they didn't sleep the whole night. He's laid awake, and the next day he's looking for her. He goes and he hears the lady selling flowers, which is one of her jobs.
Yeah.
And basically he never
reconnects,
sees her
never
again.
sees her again.
And he buys her the piano, like we talked about, and the fucking ending, and the song plays, and everybody cries.
And it pans out
because
from
it's
her.
their song.
She's playing the piano. Yeah, she's playing their song.
Yep.
Showing it to her daughter, and her husband's there holding their daughter, and the guys are there watching
And
TV.
he seems like a nice
he
guy.
seems fine, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, it's like, that's the feeling of, like, at the end, you're like, oh, he's not with, like, some piece of shit. He's not with some piece of shit.
I think the only thing I think the only thing she says about him is that he's older and it didn't work or something.
Right. And it's like, okay, it seems like they have their lives and they're not involving each other. And it's a tragedy in the sense that, like, that's it for their music probably, and that's it for them. I mean, who knows? You know, 10
Well, there's
years
something
from
I
now,
wanted
maybe I'll
to
look
something I
her
wanted
up.
to ask you about is in that last shot where it's in her apartment and she's playing. You know, she's over the moon about the piano. She's playing it and
Is this
showing
the bus.
The bus. Is he on the bus?
I think that's the point, right?
Yep.
It's a real, like, ambiguous ass ending.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of. There's other movies that end similar ways.
Yeah.
I guess, like, Shane. Isn't Shane ambiguous?
Where
it's one of those.
You don't know whether or not Shane's dead, but although I think it's pretty clear he is. But
yeah, but it's I don't. Sorry, I was watching the ending of Shane recently, and he does look kind of alive. But but it's one of those where the last shot turns and there's a bus pulling up, and then the movie fades out, and so you could tell yourself, oh, that's him.
Could be
coming back.
It could be,
but it's not really the point.
No.
But
I think the possibility is also part of the theme. So, like, throwing that last little possibility in there.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? And I would argue is a way better and more polished version of?
What's that?
The Commitments. The Commitments.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the main actor in this is the guitarist.
Yeah, he's the guitar player from The Commitments. He's an actual I forget the name of the band he was in for many years, but
I don't know. Because The Commitments didn't wow me. And I liked the idea, which is about people getting together to form this one beautiful moment.
Yeah, this one.
That's
We talked
fleeting.
about that, like the Full Monty and Calendar Girls, where it was like sort of like a type of British movie that was popular at the time of, like, you know, regular folk getting together to do something great just this one time.
Right, and I don't think this is the same filmmaker. But I do think someone might have looked at that movie and been like, no, here's what you do. Because they don't. This is, again, it's like, we don't know. This album, in this reality, obviously, in real life, it did quite good. This album, like, maybe no one will fucking hear it, you know? Like, maybe this beautiful piece of music is just going to get lost, just like their relationship. Or maybe they get huge, they have to reunite. Like, we don't know. Because the point is that for this one beautiful moment, these people came together and made something beautiful. And that's that. And I think The Commitments was trying to do that, but it just didn't have enough of a story because the beauty of
It
this
was
is a near miss love is a perfect allegory for the music too, right?
Right, and it's much more focused too. Like, the Commitments was way more of an ensemble, so it was by design much more unfocused on the individual characters and more about just the whole idea of the experience. Like, it would be like they basically distilled the Commitments down into the recording montage.
Yeah, this is a more refined version of what the Commitments was trying to say. And so, like, the Commitments came first, but I think this did it better. By the way, two big fans of this movie is Bob Dylan and Steven Spielberg, apparently, which, I mean, I'm sure it has more fans than that. But I guess Bob Dylan had them open for him for a while after this movie came out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I think Spielberg, he knows a good film when he sees it.
Yeah, he's aware. He can spot those.
Yeah, I can't stress enough, the filmmaking itself
is quite good.
It's subtly good, but it is good. It's a musical. If you compare this to any other musical, you'll notice, like, the beats are all the same.
And it is. And
the structure.
Yeah. It really does nail it very subtly, so that you don't even really notice it at first. But I did want to say, like, we do need to emphasize, or at least I feel like we should emphasize, that it's totally handheld. Like, it's 100% like the same.
Except for that last shot.
But like roughly the same kind of like digital camera you and your friends might have been fucking around with in 2007 to make a movie. Like
yes, it looks. The quality is not good.
It's not good quality film, but the directing is so good. Like, it reminds me of watching Mike Flanagan's first film, his kickstarted film, in Absentia, where it's like, well, the film quality is dirt, but like this director is somebody, you can tell.
Absolutely. That's what it's like. You can tell the person holding the camera knows
exactly what they're doing. Yeah.
Because it wasn't lit. There was no lighting here. It's all just, again, stealing shots and shooting in like their own apartments on a dirt budget. That expensive shot was like a $2,000 shot, like, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking up the cinematography, and it's a accomplished cinematographer.
That does not surprise me at all.
No, and that's the thing is, like, I'm looking at the cinematographer. They've done plenty before and plenty after. They worked on 80 films. And it's like, no, they're not. I'm looking at these films. I'm like, they're not like amazing films, but like you can tell that the cinematography, like, it seems like what happened was this movie had a lot of backing,
a lot of talent, just not a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And they knew. They were like, listen, the only way we're going to make money is if we make this cheap.
It's got to be very small, but it helps that you write the movie you can make, right? So it's like, that's why the story is so small and so focused and so personal.
Yeah. And I would argue it kind of helps because it makes it more impressive to me watching this film and looking at it and being like, wow, they're really making like a musical.
Yeah, like it's since been adapted into a stage production.
Yeah, it is a musical. It's not even under musical; it's under music. And I'm like, dude, finish the word. It's a musical, and I can't help. Listen, I really like Whiplash. That director's fine, but La La Land. It's just very funny to me that movie is pulling out all the stuff. It's just like fucking song and dance, huge numbers, this big thing to do what this movie did for. It says here $150,000. Like, this to me blows that movie out of the water.
Well, and it's such
doing the exact same idea. Essentially, I know it's a little different. It's just like, yeah, this is so much more effective.
And that's what I wanted to say is, and what so infinitely more profound and emotional statement about art than La La Land was. Like, La La Land felt. Like, that's a very well-directed movie, but it's very, like, that's the, like you said, you have to make the selfish choice. That's the selfish move. That's, like, the self-centered sort of approach to art. Not to take anything, not to diminish that movie's message. It's talking about a bit of a different thing. But, like, this one's just much more resonant and much more poignant to me. Much more profound.
La La Land struck me as a movie about art made by someone who'd never
hasn't had to struggle very hard. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a movie about poverty made by a rich person who like just simply you can tell like, oh, you've never actually been poor, have you? Like it was that. Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm not correct about the writer and director of La La Land. That's just the impression
that's what that movie is about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I forget his name now. Fuck, it escaped my brain. But I don't know what his life was like. But yeah, that's the movie he made.
Yeah, exactly. And that this
Shit,
movie,
what is his
like,
name?
I forget. I can look it up. But part of the this being handheld plays into that, where it's like it feels like a movie made.
It's about Damien Chazelle.
Like
that's right. It's about people on the street musicians.
Exactly.
Like
and so like shooting it like a documentary almost on these shitty cameras is like it works even more because you're like, man, I can tell these shots are stolen. Mm-hmm. It just really plays into it. And then again, it's just a really good reminder of what makes movies. And what I mean by that is like a scene with them singing in a fucking music shop on handheld camera is so much more moving to me than most musical numbers
and it's
in
just
big flashy musicals.
And it's just reverse shot.
Yeah,
they occasionally, I think once or twice, they cut to the guy up front being like, "Oh, that's a good fucking song."
Right. It's just them going, look, we know what we have, and we have a fucking killer song, and we're going to listen to it, and you're going to feel something. And like that's all we need. Yep. We don't need to fucking,
movies are about emotion and character, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't need to be anything else. If you got those, if you're holding the right cards, you don't need anything else. And so, like, fucking good on them. Holy shit.
Now, to be clear, like, all of the technical parts of this movie came together to present that emotion. Like, if this movie was not shot as well as it was shot, I don't think it would be half as effective.
100%. Yeah. It's got the talent, and it knows it has the talent. Yep. So it doesn't need it to be technically amazing.
A fucking $1 billion. Like,
yeah, nothing against like Lord of the Rings. You can have both. You can have talent and all the money in the world, and you can make something amazing too. Yeah. But it's just like a nice reminder that like these are the core things we need to make a real movie. To make any movie, you need to have these things.
Also, like relatively speaking, Peter Jackson didn't have as much money to make those movies as you might think.
Oh yeah, whenever I go back and watch the first Lord of the Rings, that one amazes me because that one the studio's like, we'll give you this much.
He's really making some magic in that first one.
Yeah, the first one they're like, okay, Mr. fucking Bad Taste, the Frighteners.
It's almost a proof of concept, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. In fact, in the end, I always watch the end, and it amazes me that the ending looks like LARPing. It's just a bunch of orcs and people in the woods.
It's just it's not like even a special or enchanted woods. It's just the woods.
It's just the woods, which I think helps the movie ground it.
Yes.
Where you're like, yeah, I have woods too. But it is just people dicking around in the woods. It's very funny.
No.
That's a different movie.
Different film.
But man, I'm glad you liked Once. Not everybody will necessarily like it. It's just amazing to me because this film is sappy. Again, it's not bad sappy. It's just, this is not a genre that normally gets me. I'm not a musical guy. I'm not really a romance guy. So when I run into one of these, it's like I feel really fucking exposed by it. Where I'm like, "Fuck, man,
this movie's calling me out."
Yeah, they got me, and I'm like, I don't know why. I mean, I guess just it was well done. It's also a real good watch with your grandma movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I could see that. I bet my mom loved this movie.
I watched this with my parents. That was when I first saw it.
This feels like a parent watch.
I saw it in theaters, and it was like, what should we see? Let's go see this movie. Lord knows why this was on our radar, but it was like we had an indie theater near us, and we went and saw it. And I remember coming out of it like, damn.
Yeah, fucking movie changed me.
Yeah, I was like, I was not looking forward to this fucking movie, and it was quite good.
Yep.
It's like the last kind of movie that would entertain me.
Yeah, I'm bewildered at your response to this movie.
I mean, yeah, I don't even have a music background.
Because this movie was my 20s, so like this movie speaks to me. on a deep level.
I think it speaks to anybody who understands art, right?
I know. I'm sure it speaks to anybody who understands human connection. I'm just saying, like, there's like, I have this additional level of like identifying with it personally, so it like resonates with me deeply.
Yeah, they're just looking at the screen, pointing at you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good movie.
It's an excellent movie.
Yeah, it certainly didn't get bad reviews. I believe
it's like a 98 or a 99 on Metacritic, and it nominated for a bunch of statues.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we're not bravely saying how
good
this movie is good.
Yeah, we're not like
But it is like, I think, kind of this movie. I've never forgotten this movie, and I had only seen it once. Like the
Waka.
title. But I think people kind of, it's one of those films that I can see people just sort of forgetting, because why would they? Why would they remember? And I can see people revisiting it and being like, "Oh wow, for a year this movie everybody was talking about this movie."
Yeah. I mean, it's nowhere near as good a film, but I'm just there's always a movie like this, right? Especially in this time. It felt like in the late 90s, and then throughout the aughts, there was like 2 or 3 of these a year. But like The King's Speech.
Right, where like I have movies like this where I'll go back and watch a movie from like 82, and I'm like, this is a good movie, and then I Google it and go, oh yeah, it won an Academy Award. Like everybody knew it was a good movie. Interesting.
Like I watched Ordinary People for the first time on a plane last summer. And it was a pretty good movie, and then looking up like, oh yeah, everybody agreed it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not discovering anything new here. Okay, got it.
I'm not gonna like introduce anyone to this film. Everybody kind of knows about it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah, I got nothing else.
I mean, great film.
Yeah, great film. We will continue to explore Irish music films.
Sweet.
I don't know how you're going to top this, Mickey for Therapy.
You won't.
2023.
You won't.
Yeah.
Not that you should stop trying, but I'm just saying I'm pretty sure this is going to be the peak of these movies.
Oh yeah. When I saw the list that Mickey had gotten me, and I saw one, so I was like, well, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. So it doesn't really matter what else. Like if I hate every other movie that you give us,
it's fine.
I mean, just know, like
once.
I got to watch once. Yeah, I love this movie.
I liked The Commitments too, but Once is way better. You're right.
Yeah, I didn't hate The Commitments or anything, but this is
good film. Good film.
Everybody check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you, Mickey for Therapy 2023. I hope you get that therapy you apparently need. This was through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed, GAMEFULLY unemployed. We have custom We Just Watched episodes. That's how this got made.
Yeah.
But we also, for just $5 of your dollars a month, you can get access to Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. Those are all on there for just $5. If you want to kick in a little more, for $10, you can watch movies with us every Friday night. That's a thing you can do.
Yeah.
So check that shit out. Why don't you?
Yeah. Why don't you? And while you're at it,
why don't you?
Why don't you head over to our Teespring store? Go to gamefullyunemployed.com. You can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. You can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your little musical peepers onto that.
Yeah. Slap your once
folk
peepers.
Music peepers.
Yeah.
Just
don't have kids.
Your weepy little bearded peepers wearing peacoats.
Yeah.
Your peacoat peepers.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched this with subtitles on, by the way, because otherwise I'm like, I don't know what the fuck these people are saying. These people are speaking a different language. Good on them. It's like a secret code.
Yeah, real bold. Real bold.
I
bet they're talking about us.
Yeah, real bold of Ireland to make up that accent.
Yeah, that's a real... They've just been trolling the world for hundreds of years.